you disrespect me like that? You are in serious trouble.
Excuse me. What is the meaning of this?
The words hit the room like a slap. Ms. Parker leaned over the second row and let them fall from her mouth, sharp and cold. Your dad is not some big hero, Marcus. Stop lying for attention. Boys like you do not have generals for fathers. The air in the classroom tightened. 27 children froze in place. Pencils hovered over paper. Eyes darted between the teacher and the small black boy in the second row. Marcus Cole stared down at his notebook, his lashes trembling, his hand hidden in his pocket, fingers wrapped so tight around a small metal coin that the edges bit into his skin. He felt the heat crawl up his neck, that mix of shame and anger. He knew too well. On the page in front of him, numbers blurred. His name in the top corner seemed to shrink. Inside his chest something said speak, but another part, older and tired, whispered back not again. Ms. Parker straightened, smoothing her blouse as if she had simply corrected a spelling error. She turned back to the whiteboard and drew a neat line under the words community helpers. Pictures of doctors, nurses, firefighters, and police officers were taped in a row. There was a blank space at the end, as if there should have been one more dot. No one in the room spoke. A girl in the back sank lower in her chair, guilt pressing on her as she remembered laughing last week when Marcus had mentioned his dad. A boy near the window smirked and then looked away, as if he did not want to think too hard about any of this. Most of them did what children often do in moments like this. They hid in silence. Only Marcus moved. His thumb rubbed the worn coin in his pocket. It was warm from his hand, smooth on one side with an eagle on the other. His father had given it to him at the airport 3 months ago, kneeling in front of him with tired eyes and a steady voice. The coin had been a promise and a reminder. Today it felt like his last shield. Across town, a dark car turned into the school parking lot. Morning light reflected off the windshield as it rolled to a slow stop. The driver stepped out, walked around, and opened the rear door with practiced care. A tall black man climbed out. His uniform was so sharp and clean, it almost seemed unreal against the cracked pavement and painted parking lines. Medals lined his chest in perfect rows. 4 silver stars rested on his shoulders, each one earned in places most people only saw. On screens, General David Cole closed the car door and stood still for a moment. The air smelled like damp grass and asphalt, mixed with the faint scent of cafeteria food drifting from a vent. Somewhere a whistle blew, and children laughed on the other side of the building. He had walked in the battle zones with less weight on his heart than he felt right now. He remembered other mornings. Heat waves over desert sand, the roar of helicopters, the sting of dust in his eyes. Nights where the sky glowed orange from distant fires. The taste of metal and fear that he swallowed down because others were watching him, trusting him. The sound of names read at ceremonies, the way folded flags felt in his hands as he handed them to families who would never be the same. He had seen brave people fall. He had carried their stories inside him like a second spine. He had promised himself that his son would grow up knowing 2 things with no doubt at all, that he was loved and that his father honored him, even from far away. Now, as he walked toward the school doors, each step felt like part of a different kind of mission. The floors inside were polished, and his boots made a soft, steady sound. A teacher in the hallway glanced up, saw the uniform, and stopped walking for a second. Her mouth parted in surprise. Her gaze dropped to the 4 stars on his shoulders. An instinct from news clips and history lessons made her straighten her posture. "Good morning, sir," she breathed, almost without meaning to. He gave a small nod and kept moving. Real power did not need to fill the hall with noise. It simply arrived and made the space feel different. Back in the classroom, Ms. Parker tapped a poster with her marker. She spoke about truth and honesty, about telling real stories and not making things up. Her words were calm, but inside she felt a slight pull of unease that she tried to ignore. She turned and looked at Marcus once more. He sat very still, his back straight, his face quiet. That calm made her more certain that she had needed to correct him. This is how children learn, she told herself. They need to know the limits of the world. She did not see the way his shoulders were not just still, but braced. She did not see how hard he was holding himself together. The clock above the door moved toward mid-morning. Outside the classroom, footsteps approached. Another teacher passed, then the sound of heavier steps followed, steady as a marching line. A gentle knock sounded at the door. Ms. Parker turned, a polite greeting already forming. The door opened, and the principal, Mr. Harris, stepped in. His usual easy smile was gone, replaced by a careful, almost formal expression. Behind him stood General David Cole. The room shifted in an instant. 27 children sensed something they did not have words for. Pens dropped softly to desks. Chairs creaked as bodies straightened without being told to. Eyes widened as they took in the rows of medals, the ribbons, the quiet strength in the man's face, and finally the 4 stars that seemed to light the space around his shoulders. Marcus lifted his head and saw him. For a heartbeat, the classroom vanished. There was only his father's steady gaze and the familiar grounding presence that came with it. The tiny crack in Marcus's chest, made by morning words, began to close. General Cole took one step into the room. The smell of dry markers and paper met him. He saw his son, small but standing tall in his chair, hands tight around something in his pocket. He saw the teacher, pale, frozen, her eyes fixed on his shoulder. He saw a board full of helpers, and one blank space. Mr. Harris cleared his throat, his voice softer than usual. Class, we have a very special visitor today. This is General David Cole. The title seemed to hang in the air like a flag unfurling. Every child knew what a general was in some vague way. They had seen movies, games, news clips, but very few had seen a real one walk through their classroom door and then look, first and longest, at one of their classmates. Mr. Harris turned to Marcus. Would you like to introduce your guest, Marcus? The boy stood. His knees shook, but he did not hide it. He stepped out from behind his desk, each step a little stronger than the last, and joined his father at the front of the room. The challenge. Coin sat warm and solid in his palm now, no longer hidden. This is my dad, he said, voice low but clear. General David Cole. The words did not sound like bragging. They sounded like a simple fact, the way someone might say, this is my name, or this is my home. The general rested a hand on his son's shoulder. He did not boast about missions or ranks. He did not list his sacrifices or let his medal speak for him. Instead, he looked at the sea of small faces and then at the teacher who stood there. Shaking he talked about service in plain language, about people who wake up each day ready to protect others, about long nights away from family and the pride that comes from doing hard things quietly. He spoke of respect as a starting point, not a reward. Real respect, he said, is not based on what we expect to see. It is how we choose to treat every person before we know their story. The words landed with a weight that no worksheet ever could. Miss Parker felt her throat tighten. The morning replayed in her mind as if someone had hit a slow-motion button. Her own voice, telling a child that boys like him could not have heroes like this. Her disbelief, her certainty. It all tasted different now, bitter and wrong. She stepped forward, feeling every eye in the room on her. She looked at Marcus first, not at the uniform, not at the stars. Just at the boy. I was wrong, she said, her voice thin but honest. I did not believe you. I hurt you. I am sorry. The room held its breath. Marcus felt a swirl of feelings rise up inside him. Hurt, yes, but also a strange lightness. He had not shouted. He had not fought. He had kept his silence until truth walked in. On steady feet beside him, silent strength is not weakness, he realized. It is the courage to let truth speak for itself. One student stood up, then another. Soon the whole class was on its feet, not with perfect posture, not with formal training, but with simple human respect. They did not clap. They did not cheer. The silence itself became the salute dot in that quiet room, a lesson much bigger than community helpers sank in. The children saw a man who carried heavy stories behind calm eyes. They saw a boy who had been doubted and who still chose to stand. They saw a teacher who had been sure and then chose to be humble instead. The truth does not need to shout. It just waits for the door to open. When General Cole and Marcus stepped back into the hallway, the world outside looked the same. Posters. On the walls, footsteps, soft echoes of other lessons. But inside Marcus, something had changed for good. He walked taller, not because everyone now knew who his father was, but because he had seen what quiet honor can do in a loud, unfair moment. There are many battles in life that do not show up on screens or in headlines. Some happen in small rooms with whiteboards and plastic chairs. Some begin with harsh words and end in silent respect. For everyone hearing this story, scattered across cities, towns, and villages, the message is simple and strong. Honor is not loud. It does not demand the room. It arrives in calm voices, in steady steps, in the quiet choice to treat every person with respect, even when we do not yet know who they are.